Oh yeah.
My insanity is open for discussion. Everybody's a little bit insane. If you're not, then what the fuck are you doing in life, right? You froze. Mr. Michaels froze. We don't know why.
I'm back.
It's like Iceman. He's back.
Next week I'll name
Welcome
myself
to the revolution.
Iceman.
Iceman. The Iceman for Richard Kuklinski?
Actually, welcome to episode number 28.
28. You know who the Iceman is, right? Who I just referred to?
Top Gun.
No, Richard Kuklinski, man, the original Iceman, the dude that you know,
Mafia, correct?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
You know, he that's where he got his claim to fame, but you know.
I was being funny.
There's a whole series on HBO Max, which I think I figured it's it Max now? It's Max. They have the whole series of him. It's pretty interesting. I think some of it's Hollywoody. Hollywoody, is that a word? It's Hollywoody.
That is a word.
But
yes,
it still
I'll accept it.
Comes across. It still comes across as a little for most humans disturbing. For people like you and me, it's interesting. It's fascinating that, you know.
So you'll say I'll be engrossed.
Nikki and I are watching this thing right now. Yeah, you will be engrossed.
I'll watch it.
Nikki and I are watching this thing called Killing Eve. Yeah,
I
Killing
love that.
Eve. You ever see that? It's a Netflix deal, yo.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you watching Killing Eve? Right on. Okay.
Yes.
So the perfume thing, I automatically related that to Kuklinski's potassium cyanide because that was one of his kill methods. He would
correct.
You know, had to get somebody in the club or something. He would just walk up and jab them with a hypodermic needle full of potassium cyanide, and whoop, and 5 minutes later they'd collapse.
Yep.
Powerful stuff. Powerful.
Do you have...
So you know Neanderthal, right, from your days in Arizona?
Yes.
I know. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to talk over that. He's his era is ending at KSLX this Friday.
I only know that because you commented on his post, and I read the whole thing and his goodbye speech and everything. And yeah, he's an Arizona institution for sure, and will be greatly missed. But definitely good luck on your next endeavor. And always enjoyed listening to that dude, man.
Yeah.
You could tell that his passion for music
I got to know him as a human being. Like, yeah. Absolutely. And we became friends over the years. When he left KDKB, I did some radio advertising, and he read my stuff. Okay. And we just became friends. He's he's a superhuman, man. He's not just a jock, he's a really nice guy. He had genuine interest in the chaos that was going on in my life years ago, and genuine interest in Jake and Skylar and how they've evolved over the years. Just a really cool human. And he's never come across fake or anything. So
no, and that's why he stays in Arizona,
because afternoons. Yeah. Hopefully he stays here because afternoons sucked without him. I mean, he did the morning gig with remember the show Tim and Mark back in the day?
Oh, absolutely.
It was on
100%.
KDKB.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So right. So Tim and Neanderthal did a morning stint on KSLX, which was cool, but I always felt that Neanderthal was better than Tim. Just my opinion,
I agree with that.
But so when he went back to afternoons, I think it more of his niche. Yeah, it's just more of his niche because he can control everything. And yeah, so it's a drag. He's a good guy. It's hopefully he stays in Arizona, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I always enjoyed listening to him for sure.
KSLX went and fucking. Yeah, KSLX went and got one of those fucking stupid nationwide syndicates in the morning. They just are fucking stupid, man. like just stupid. They have no relevance, and it's I don't know why people do that. I don't know why you syndicate. Pretty soon nobody's gonna listen to regular radio anymore. They're just gonna all go to Sirius and XMs and shit, because you take the personality away. What are you listening for?
After I left Arizona, I don't listen to regular radio anymore. I use Spotify, or for a while I used Sirius XM, but I got tired of having to call them every 6 months and negotiate my price down to what I was paying at that moment in time, and sometimes you had to call 2 or 3 times. And I was like, fuck that. Yeah. So I just started paying for Spotify. And that's the reason that I pay for Spotify, is so I can listen to what I want, when I want. It's convenient. I know the artists get screwed. Tony and I had a long conversation about that, I don't know, 2 or 3 days ago, and it does suck. And when he comes on, he's going to give you the numbers. So one of his claims to fame is he started the first Native American record label in the world. So he has quite a few Native American artists on this label. Yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty big deal. And, before streaming came along, they were fairly successful at keeping the studio up and running, keeping the label up and running. The artists were making money. He was making money. Right. But as soon as streaming came along, here's how bad it got. The artists don't make any money anymore. They truly just do it for the love of the music. I think he said last year they had 1.5 million downloads, which, isn't huge.
Holy shit.
But it's way more than we got.
Right.
To put it in perspective, right. Your Metallicas, your big rappers, I'm drawing a blank right now, but your big artists, the Beatles, they
Snoop
all
Dogg,
have
like Snoop
Dogg for sure. They have over 1 billion streams.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we talked about this on a prior show. Snoop Dogg just wanted to know what he made off 1 billion streams, and it was $40,000.
Yeah. Right. Which is insane.
You can't make a living on $40,000 as an artist. It's just unrealistic. It's not going to happen. So to put it in perspective for the people who are listening, we are talking to our listeners. That's why your concert tickets cost what they cost. Because the artist has to make a living.
Yeah, but there's...
I know part of it's Ticketmaster.
$400 to see somebody. A lot of it. Because I have buddies that I'm not heavy into concerts like I used to be, but I have some friends that every time they go somewhere, they'll post it, and it's like fucking $150 in fees. Like, there's a convenience. Fuck you. There's a convenience fee. You monopolize the game of how to buy tickets. It's not convenient at all. If it's just weird, man. I don't fucking get it. Sooner or later, something's gonna have to.
I'll put it in perspective for you. I am a lifelong Cubs fan. I've never been to Wrigley Field, so
right.
I've seen plenty of Cubs games. I was a Diamondback season ticket holder when I knew you, or after you left the band or whatever. Right. As soon as they started, I went in as a 1/8 partner with 8 other guys that I worked with at Color Masters. And we all split up, so many games. So I've been to a lot of major league games, been to a lot of Cubs games. Sure. Never been to Wrigley Field, second oldest ballpark in the country.
Yeah.
Grew up watching the Cubs with my grandpa, Sunday afternoon, that kind of thing. It's just things you remember as a kid, and I've never been there. So a bunch of my friends found that out, and that's like sacrilegious to be a lifelong Cubs fan since you were a little kid and never have been to Wrigley Field. There's a point to this story, I swear.
Yeah, I can see that.
Back even when I was a kid.
You're good, man. Tell your story.
You could go to Wrigley Field and sit in the bleachers for maybe back then it was $9, because you're sitting way out in the bleachers. You're hoping somebody hits a home run or you're never going to get a ball, that kind of thing. And you're sitting in the sun. It's not ideal, but it's a rite of passage to have sat there. And that's the way that the middle class or even poor people back in the day could go see a ball game. $85 for general admission now. And after they put all the bullshit fees on there, it was $119 to sit in the fucking bleachers, which was supposed to be, once again, a rite of passage for little kids and poor families and middle income families to be able to go see a ball game and not have to be broke. You could take your 3 kids there.
Yeah.
How are you going to do that now?
Right.
I can afford it, but if I had to take 4 other people with me, now it's ridiculous. That's before you pay $13.50 for a beer.
That's
or $9 for a water.
Diamondbacks did a thing this year. Diamondbacks did a thing this year that Jake told me about. So it cost me $600, right? I get tickets to every single home game. The day of the game, up to 4 hours of game time, I'll get a text in the morning, and I have until 4 hours before game time to pick my seats. They're upper deck, obviously. I haven't done it yet because I just, I did it just, that'll be cool. Go to a few games this year, pace yourself.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to do it eventually. That's just, to see where we get and what we do and how we sit and all that kind of just for the hell of it. Just, daylight, let's go to a baseball game type thing. But I haven't been to a Diamondbacks game like legit in probably 3 or 4 years. And I want to say back 3 or 4, maybe before COVID. That's how long it's been. So before COVID, Nick and I would go to a game, spend a couple $100, third baseline type thing, middle of the, what the fuck? I don't know. It's not the lower level, but not the upper level, like right in the middle, and that's not bad, right? But still, and you got to park.
That little. So what is it like?
That's what I like.
15 rows or something. That middle section.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, those are good seats.
Yeah. So and you're not like, ooh, I can see the players and shit, but we didn't care. That's why I like the Rattlers when they were playing in America West Arena. For those of you listening who don't know, Rattlers.
We used to go to a ton of
arena
those
football
games.
league. Because, right, so we had season tickets till they just moved to Glendale. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm not driving to Glendale. But for 5 years, it was like basically $2,000 for basically front row seats. And I don't drink beer and all that kind of shit. And they're cool enough. The Rattlers games are cool enough. You could bring sealed water bottles in and stuff. So we would just bring sealed water bottles in. I'd bring, one of my sandwiches because the way I eat and, never wouldn't spend a dime inside the arena.
That's awesome.
It was all just season tickets. So it was cool. It was fun. But then they moved to fucking Glendale. I'm like, I'm not going to Glendale. I'm not driving an hour one way. Just it's not happening.
Yeah. So
there's that.
I went with
That's my
Kevin
story.
back in the 90s when Danny White was the head coach. And I think he was paying I think he paid about what you paid for your home game Diamondbacks. I think he was paying about $600 a year for Rattlers season tickets back then. Might have even been less than that because arena football just wasn't a big, it hadn't caught on yet. It was brand new. But damn, it was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. With Danny White. Was Danny White the coach?
Yeah. Yep.
Was Danny White the coach? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So did you see that bullshit about Tom Brady being roasted?
Vague. Not enough to even understand what's going on, but I thought I saw something about that on Facebook. Yeah. What's up?
Yeah, I don't understand why a quarterback gets roasted. Like, I don't. Well, it's just funny because Eli, Eli posted, "I'm not going to attend Tom Brady's roast because I've already roasted him twice." Ding ding.
True story,
right? But why the fuck does a quarterback get roasted? Like, I thought roastings were like, well, number one, they're old school, right? They're like in the, when we were growing up, those kind of movie stars or shit got roasted. But I'm like, why is Tom Brady being roasted? Like, and then people are so stupid and gullible. There's a quote flying around on Facebook that Aaron Hernandez roasted Tom Brady. Hello, Aaron Hernandez was the dude that fucking, right or wrong, got convicted for what I think 2 gangland murders and killed himself in prison.
Oh, he was straight up guilty.
His but and it was, he hung himself. He killed himself in prison to vacate something. There's something weird about it that I watched the story on. It's fascinating. If you're during the appeal process in Massachusetts, if you die, all charges have to be dropped because there's nothing you can't show up in court, and by doing so, it reversed the minority clause in his contract to where then he has to be paid. He had to be paid by the Patriots. Really? So I don't know how all that played out because they didn't really say. Yeah, it's a trip, man. If you ever, I forget what it's on, but it's on one of the streaming platforms. Search that, the Aaron Hernandez documentaries, dude. Take out what he did, right? Take out the violence and shit, and listen and just watch it for the story. And I'm not gonna drop the revelations they shared in it because you haven't seen it. But it's pretty interesting. The whole thing's pretty interesting. And the day that the last conversation he had before he killed himself, he was like, how they painted the picture. He was completely at peace and he was excited to talk to his daughter, this and that, and just it's interesting. Google that shit, find it. I forget. I want to say Netflix, but don't quote me. But it's interesting. It's worth a watch. It's only like a 90-minute long thing.
Oh yeah, you know I love documentaries.
It's a good insight.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, I think it's on Hulu.
Looked at his brain. Maybe that's what it is. But they mentioned his brain from the concussion scans and stuff, so that the image of the brain was all fucked up. So there's
brain
total
injury.
Relevance to the whole CT. Yes, yeah. TBI, is that what it is? TBI, traumatic brain injury.
Yep.
So it's interesting. It's a trip. It's good. So, yeah, there's that.
So what I was going to ask you earlier, speaking of documentaries, do you have Apple TV?
I do. We got Apple TV to watch Ted Lasso.
That's why I got it. No, I lied. I actually got, I did, but if I'm being brutally honest, what made me, this guy here, paid at the time $6.99 a month.
That guy there
was my celebrity crush is Jennifer Aniston, and she's on the morning show looking very fine.
Okay.
So,
right on.
If you guys haven't watched that one yet, it's a very good show, even though the only reason I watched it initially is because she was on there.
Well,
so where I was going with that.
Apple, because we were flying somewhere. Yeah. Go finish your thought there. Squirrel.
No, you're fine. So where I was going with that is, have you watched that movie with De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio, Killers of the Flower Moon?
I tried, man. That thing is so fucking slow.
It's a true story, though, man. That's why they had to play it out like that, because that story has never been told. And that's the whole story is 100% true. That's why I didn't even suffer through it, because they probably took artistic liberty with the characters, but what happened is 100% true. They found oil there in the
because I love De Niro.
His character is based on the character that ran that part of the country after they found the oil. He basically had a huge cattle ranch. He's already made fuck tons of money. These Indians are poor as shit because there's no usable land. They're basically living in a dust bowl. And he's living up on this hill where all this grassland is, and they don't even tell you that. I just deducted that from watching it. I figured out how he made all his money without them even telling me, and you will too. But he's basically up there raising cattle like it's going out of style, and the poor Indians are living in the valley, and it never rains, and there's no grass, and there's very little water, and they're poor as shit. Well, one day fucking oil bubbles up from the ground, and they become, per capita, the richest people on earth instantly in like 1920, 21.
Wow.
Well, of course, that attracts all the oil companies and the white people, and the white people basically just started slaughtering Indians like they were going out of style. Because
just take the oil.
Because if you marry Indian woman, and Indian woman, she dies.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who gets the land and the oil? You do.
The dude.
White man.
The dude. That's fucked up, man.
Yeah. Well, they didn't think so, and neither did the oil companies. Wow. I was very shocked to learn that the FBI cared. Of all people, the FBI cared. Because everybody that went in there...
Well, because it was an injustice, man. I mean, that's... Yeah.
Agreed, but think about how many times the government has turned their eye or, the other way when oil's involved or money's involved. And you're talking a lot. But back then they still had enough morals, apparently, that, things like that still mattered. But a lot of people went in there and tried to find out what was going on, and they also got murdered. It's worth watching. It really is. For anybody that's listening.
Who's killing them all?
Well, then I'll ruin the movie for everybody.
Who's doing the killing?
Oh, after you see it, we can talk about it, but I'm not going to ruin it for you because that's part of the...
Okay.
That part I really hadn't figured out yet. That took a while into the movie before you figure out who's slaughtering these Indians. But they're literally just dying by 10 at a time, 3 or 4 people in the same family were getting murdered. And nobody went, oh,
damn,
they're stealing our money. They do eventually, but it takes a while.
So who owns all that oil now? Who
I never looked into that, and they don't talk about it. I'm sure it turned into Shell and Exxon and, Mobil, and just like everything else did. But
And this is what part of the country?
Oklahoma.
And this is what? Oklahoma. Okay. That's interesting.
These Indians got run out of These Indians got run out of Missouri and Arkansas, and they got pushed into Oklahoma.
Wow.
And it's adorable because, they think that that's where their God wanted them to go. They're like, they didn't want us in Missouri. They didn't want us in Arkansas. So this became our homeland. Oklahoma.
I really don't know why we don't our lineage doesn't have more of a karmic fuck you for. I mean, granted, everything overseas, right? Historically, there were battles for land. Like all wars were land, all wars were power. So obviously, when the Pilgrims came over here and saw all this land, then it was obviously there's going to fight. You're going to battle because you want the land, right? And we had guns, they didn't, so we won. What it comes down to, right? Civil War was about injustices in land and all kind of shit. So we were such a powerful nation from day one, right? Because we were unstoppable from a battle and a war standpoint until Vietnam. Then that we had no business being there, and it had nothing to do with us. I don't know why we were fucking there.
You got to give the savages that came over here credit.
Fucking Taiwan
and I'm talking about the white savages because that's what they were. They were people that didn't agree with the king, and they didn't agree with the church. These were rebels, man. They weren't like, everybody talks about the founding fathers like they were these wise old men, and they were fucking rebels is what they were. They didn't agree with the church in England, and they didn't agree with the king and the queen. And if you said shit like that back then, they would hang you from the town square. So these are the people that got on boats and came across the ocean and killed all these Indians.
Yeah.
They weren't nice, happy little people. They had some good ideas. They had some great ideas. Mm-mm. But the one thing that I took from one of Rogan's jokes in one of his specials was, these guys would be fascinated 200 and some years later that we never changed anything. It was meant to be a living, breathing document. That's
the mind-boggling part of it, right?
And
it evolves over the time.
For almost 300 years, a bunch of dumb fucks are like, it's okay. We don't need to change anything. This is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the problem now, if you try to change something, there's an ulterior motive to changing something. Kind of like we talked about before. Like there should not be, in our eyes, the president shouldn't be over 60 years old, or at the most over. If he's in office, he can't be. You can't turn 60, 70. You can't be that old to run the country. But
I'm going to blow your mind and say the idea of the president is ridiculous.
It is, because the president's all he is a puppet. He's a figurehead. He's just a certain person over there in the corner, because they don't have any power, really. I mean, they have the power to veto and shit, but it's Congress and Senate that have complete control of democracy, and the House of Representatives. And, like, I agree with you. The president's nothing more than a figurehead. He shakes hands and kisses babies.
That's another one of those things that we set up in the Constitution, that how many people were around when, how many people were in the original 13 states? Honestly, I don't know, but 100,000, 150,000?
I don't know. A couple 100,000. Yeah, I would say a couple 100,000. Let's ask Siri.
We could use the Google machine to find out.
Watch something do right now. Hey, Siri, how many?
He's got me saying the Google machine, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Siri. I know. What was the population in the 13 colonies? 2.4 million in 1775. All 13 colonies combined. 2.4
Okay, I was way off. But still, that document was set up for a couple million people. There are 350 million people in this country. The federal government should be nothing more than and they're not very good at that, so I can't believe these words are going to come out of my mouth, but really all it should be doing is maintaining the finances of the country. And that's it. The states should decide for themselves.
Which they can't do.
What they want. And we're getting closer to that, because after legalized marijuana came about, the states started taking a lot of their rights back. And they should have done that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I've said it before, and I'll say it 100,000 more times to anybody that will listen, because it's so important. No adult person should tell any other adult person what they can and can't do with their body, as long as they're not hurting anybody else. They also should not tell them what they can and can't do with their land, as long as they're not hurting anybody else. Right? There's a lot of places where it's illegal to grow your own food. They will fine you. And if you do it enough times, they'll take your shit.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah. If you get into cities and stuff like that, they have...
I didn't know that.
Or if you have homeowners associations, that as a realtor, there's things you can and can't do with your property.
Well, yeah. I don't think there's any rules HOA wise that says you can't grow your own food in your backyard. I mean, you can't have, weird structures and shit on those stupid HOA neighborhoods. You can't have, livestock, that kind of shit.
And I can't think of any food growing law off the top of my head, but here's the one that I can think of. In the state of Michigan, who's one of the most liberal marijuana states in the country, they love it. 1 mile into the state, you see a big billboard, gigantic. It's got a big pot leaf in the middle, and it says Michigan's new state flower. That's how much they love it. I'm not just making this shit up. They advertise.
That's funny.
In their infinite wisdom, when the lawmakers went to the House, Congress, whatever the fuck you go to, and state legislature, there you go. I knew it'd come to me.
Yeah.
These morons go in there, and when they draw up this bill, they do everything perfect except one thing. You can have 0 to 15 plants, and it's no problem. Okay? If you have between 15, and these numbers are not perfect, I'm getting close. If you have between 15 and 31,
summarizing,
it's a felony.
Okay.
If you have 31 or more, it's no problem again. Explain to me how that works, but this is how the law reads. Fuck? I'm not kidding you. Carrie told me. She read the whole bill.
That's fucking...
Yeah.
And how old is this bill?
Well, they're 2 years before us, and I think we legalized in 2020, maybe.
Okay.
So they're like 2018, they became legal, something like that. 2019, maybe.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah, so if you have like 0 to 12,
so you would think
nothing.
So
if it's 12 to 30,
so that would be personal, right?
Right.
It's going to jail. Fuck you. And 30 plus. So I'm thinking maybe the 0 to 12 or whatever it is would be for the personal use, right? I mean, I don't grow it, so I don't know how many things are yielded on it.
A couple plants, you'd have more than you need.
That middle gap. Okay, so then maybe the middle gap there is small distribution, which they don't like to distribute, whatever would be illegal, and then more than that, then you have a farm. You're cultivating it for an income. Now, then I vaguely saw something recently where I think it's a nationwide thing where they're kind of changing the law as it relates to marijuana, as far as it's not illegal anymore at some level. I didn't read it. It was a passing headline.
So what they're trying to,
I meant to click it and I just forgot.
What they're talking about doing is, I believe, is it the FDA that's involved in? Maybe it's not the FDA. Anyway, whatever government agency is involved in that,
it would make sense if the FDA.
I think I'm right in that, but then I start second guessing myself. It doesn't matter. Whatever government agency is involved in that, they're trying to take it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2, which would basically give universities the ability to study it as a medicine. For all these years, I'm sure the American public as a whole is quite unaware that even at the university or medical research level, it was nearly impossible to study marijuana, which is why the only thing we know about marijuana is like people from like myself who will tell you, here's what it does, Well, it was super hard for schools and universities to study.
Well, that's where I'm going with the 80s flick, Zapped. Remember that movie Zapped with Scott Baio and Willie Ames?
I do.
They were growing marijuana. They were growing marijuana. I mean, Cheech and Chong, man, they were growing marijuana, underneath a swimming pool, for God's sake.
They taught us a lot about what marijuana is like.
Thai sticks, That's, and I don't know. There's so many. That would make sense, though, if it goes to university level. Then they can kind of open up an entire can of medicinal purposes, and they can apply it to like the Alzheimer's and the arthritis and the the pain management and things like that, because it should be. I mean, I smoked it when I had was just intense neck pain because I couldn't take anything because I'm an alcoholic, so I couldn't take medicine. I couldn't drink it away. I think I've talked about that before. So a buddy of mine had access to medical, and it's the only reason I survived those last 3 or 4 months before surgery, because I was in such chronic pain. It was insane. So without that, there's no way I would have started drinking again, and that would have, just fucked everything up because, but to me, it's Nikki thinks it's a gateway, which, okay. Some people do. Some people think that's a gateway. Like once you smoke a bowl, then, you get hooked, and all of a sudden it opens you up to everything else, because then you're chasing that high. And I get that there's people like that, and I respect that opinion, but you and I both kind of think that it's not so much a gateway. It's something that can help people with pain, help people with anxiety. I mean, therapists will actually say that they would rather prescribe that, and they don't prescribe it, but would rather you smoke pot than prescribe you Prozac, because the effects are the same, but the side, well, I don't know if the effects are the same, but the side effects are so different, right? But what it does is virtually the same concept. Am I explaining that right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'm a living example, because for a little over 10 years, the company that I work for said that I couldn't partake in any kind of marijuana, right? And then last year they changed their tune,
so you stopped.
because, we fought for it. It became legal. You can't tell us what we can and can't do on our own time. We had a lot of legitimate arguments, and, they had some concerns as well.
Right.
And, their concerns were legitimate to ridiculous. The ridiculous side of it when we went through those talks was, well, you want everybody to be drug addicts? No. We don't want you to tell them what they can and can't do with their own time. That's really what our argument was.
Yeah.
And if you haven't done it, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again because people need to hear it. If you have never smoked pot, don't ever talk about smoking pot with anyone for any reason negatively, because you don't know.
Right.
You have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
That would be like asking me to critique a musical. I fucking hate musicals. I respect the art form.
Yeah.
I know people work their ass off to get to that point, and I know people love it because they make billions of dollars.
Yeah.
I'd almost rather be stabbed in the eye with a needle, you know? So don't talk about things that you have never done negatively. Like you understand that, oh, that guy's a pothead, man. That's terrible. You know, the next thing you know, he's going to be doing cocaine, and you just don't know, you know? And I guess the way that the way I would side with Nikki is there are people that if they do one thing, they're going to do another because they just have an addictive personality. And they have never gotten to the point where you and I have. Agreed. Where it's funny that this topic comes up because I just got asked on Sunday if I'm sure that I'm completely recovered. And I said, yeah, I know I am, because you could set a mountain of cocaine.
Yeah.
No, I mean, just like from being an addict. You could set a mountain of whatever drug I was addicted to in front of me, and I have no interest because I know where it leads. You know, do I want to do it? Sure, because I know it's a good time and I know it feels good. I know all the effects, right?
Right.
But the way that I knew that I was cured in my mind is I will never do that again because I know what's going to happen after I do it the first time. Just like, you know, you can't drink, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have one drink and you're going to have 100 more behind.
Well, and yeah, see, and my approach to that is certain events would have to occur in my lifetime that I would go back to that like that.
Yeah,
but just certain events, like,
I get
because
it.
there would be life, right?
You don't even breathe those words into the universe.
They're life-changing, dramatic events. No, but I'm just, and I've made that statement before with you know, family around me, because there's just certain things that, you know. But yeah, I get what you're saying though. Like I'm that person that I've had no desire ever to experiment with anything aside from pot. Like I just never have. Like I've had, not you, because you went down that dark path after I had left the band, but I had instances in the last band I was in where it's just, I mean, you gotta be fucking kidding me. You're sitting here doing that. It's just mind boggling that it was such a commonplace with some people. It's just, I don't get it. And I get everybody's broken. And that's a lot of what I think, not marijuana, but the harder stuff, the cocaines and the heroines and the meths and stuff, because your self-esteem is shot and you're so insecure and you need something to make you feel big and strong, right? And Agreed. I've never done it, so I can't equate.
Agreed. Oh yeah, methamphetamine makes you feel like you can take on the fucking universe. That's a great description.
Right. Same with coke, right? It's just
absolutely
right. Same with coke, right?
Larger than life,
you know.
Yeah.
And heroin more.
Let's party.
Right. And heroin's more of an escape, like mellow you out. Right. Right.
Heroin is a
more
very
mellow you out,
introverted,
you know,
kind of drug. Yes. Self-reflection.
Right. Kind of a depressant. Just
I'm going in here.
I know enough about it because I wrote. Right. I mean,
you're going into your mind, right?
I know enough about it because, you know, like yeah. Like we talked about Liquid Sin, or not Liquid Sin. What the fuck is the song? Liquid Sin's about alcoholism. What the fuck is the song I wrote that you're like, oh, that's a trip?
Listen to your
sin.
There
you go.
Yeah, but
Liquid
that's
sin,
a positive.
Listen to your sin, you know.
Tripping is a positive.
Yeah, listen to your sin.
We'll talk about that in a second.
No, totally. But
heroin is not a positive for anybody.
But totally. But yeah, that's no. Heroin's bad heroin. That's why, you know, heroin sucks. # save our children, you know.
But I'm going to give you a spoiler real quick.
Back when
everybody that doesn't want this spoiler, and
go ahead.
It won't mean anything to anybody, so don't worry about it, but it'll mean something to Chris, and he needs to pay attention to it. In that movie, they're going to get to the point where they're going to take this Indian woman to the hospital. Yeah. You don't need to know why, because that'll ruin the movie.
Okay.
She's going to go to the hospital. And right as everybody's leaving the room, you're going to hear the doctor say, give her 2 milligrams of heroin.
No shit.
Pay attention to why they give it to her. Heroin used to be a very good tool for medicine if applied properly, and I think it still is. That's why it's always been scheduled too.
Yeah, I mean...
So this is how ridiculous the world is.
Well, think about it. Opioids have been around since the dawn of age.
Give me 2 seconds. This is how ridiculous we are as fucking human beings.
Yeah, no, dude, go. Yeah.
For all this time, since 1930 or whatever, a lot of people don't know that heroin, cocaine, marijuana, any drug you could imagine was legal during the time that alcohol was illegal. So that's fact number one for all the listeners out there that just don't have time to watch documentaries at the level I do, which is insane. Then around 1930, we decide drugs are bad, alcohol's good again. So since then, heroin has been less criminalized than marijuana. And you've known a lot of people who have smoked pot in your life because you've been in bands just like I have, and a lot of people who are in bands smoke pot. I know that's a stereotype, but there's a reason for it.
Wow.
So from 1930 until about 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I think Colorado was way ahead of us by about 10 or 12 years. This country thought that marijuana was more dangerous legally than heroin, cocaine, any kind of barbiturate, any kind of opioid, to Chris's point that he just said a minute ago. Marijuana was more dangerous than all those other drugs for all these years.
That's insane.
It is. We should be fucking ashamed.
I would guess was because the accessibility of it is probably why, because it scared the establishment. Because, right? Yeah, like marijuana is, I mean,
no, the reason we made marijuana illegal is because that was one of the first lobbyists to ever lobby Washington was William Randolph Hearst. People can look it up. I'm not just pulling this shit out of my ass. You can use the Google machine, anybody out there. And I encourage you to do that because you're going to get an eye-opening experience as to how stupid the people that run this country are, because all this guy did is have a fuck ton of money and go to Washington and say, hey, they just came out with this thing called a decorticator, and it's going to ruin my paper mills, and it's going to ruin my forestry land. So he owned a bunch of timber, and he owned a bunch of paper mills, and he went to the, congressmen and senators in Washington and said, this is going to ruin my business. The next thing you know, Reefer Madness comes out. They're renaming it. It was never named marijuana. They stole that. That was a Mexican slang term for tobacco. It had nothing to do with marijuana, hemp, or anything.
Really?
Really. True story.
Huh. Wow.
They just stole that term. They came up with Reefer Madness, which was a propaganda film. I think we talked about propaganda in the news last week, ladies and gentlemen. It's been going on for a long time. So they make this crazy movie and they scare your great-grandparents into thinking that marijuana is dangerous. Everybody's going to go crazy. It makes them go crazy. Let me tell you, I have been around more potheads than most people will ever be around in their life. And one thing I have never seen them do is get high and go crazy. I've seen them get high and demolish a pizza. I've seen them get high and demolish a quart of ice cream. I've seen them get high and fall asleep. I've seen them get high and write beautiful music. I have never seen somebody get high and go crazy.
Wow. Nope. That's wow.
But that's what that whole film was about.
So was he afraid of? Okay, so back to the guy. Was it because the hemp can be made into used as papers? That was his thing because of marijuana, whatever they called it back then.
Correct.
If that was allowed to be a crop, then he was afraid that was going to take away his paper milling because you could make paper from hemp.
Yes. So to further educate the listeners out there that are, if you know this stuff, you're just agreeing with me, and that's great. But if you don't know this, you're learning that there was no reason to make hemp illegal. They could have made what they called marijuana that contained THC. They could have just said no female plants, because for those of you out there that don't know, we kill the male plants and we keep the female plants, and it forces them to bud. And that's where the THC buds come from. It's because they're, starved for male attention.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We're going to change this to Mike's education hour, because this is fascinating shit.
Or the masses out there going, you dumb fucker, it's the other way around. I've never grown marijuana, for those of you out there. I've done a lot of research on it. But anyway, you keep one,
I get the concept. But I get the concept. You
kill all the others. Yeah. And obviously it would make sense that the female would produce the buds, right? Because that would be like the eggs of the plant or whatever.
Yeah. But I get the concept, though, for sure. It totally makes total sense.
We could have just kept growing hemp, and we could have had the baddest textiles. Right. We could have ruled the world in paper, clothing.
Yeah.
The Pilgrims flew over here. The Pilgrims sailed over here on the Mayflower on hemp sails. The Constitution is written on hemp paper.
Yeah.
Regular paper yellows, withers, and dies, right? Hemp will last forever. Right. It's like, it's almost like it's from another planet, because it's super strong, super durable, but it's light as a feather. You can pick up a hemp stalk and it's just like nothing.
So what the trip of that, the other trip on that side, or the, whatever is, imagine if that would have went the other way and they said, fuck you, dude, we're going to let hemp be the thing. We'd still have all the forests. Aside from trees, right? Because you can't build a house with hemp.
I think
but you could have built the houses with bricks, but then that wouldn't but you still would have had to have wood in some way, shape, or form. But the ability not to waste a tree on paper and use hemp for paper would have saved a lot of trees and shit, for sure.
I would venture to guess that you could say it's probably at least 1,000 to 1, and it's probably closer to 10,000 to 1 trees that it would take to cut down to build houses instead of make paper. It takes a shit ton of wood to make paper, because you're constantly just churning that out all the time. You wouldn't be doing that just to build houses,
Yeah.
We probably would have had to cut down 10 trees instead of 10,000.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that marijuana was Schedule 1, and that's the only reason that it was illegal. That's it. It's not because they want... That's the thing that people need to realize is nothing about the war on drugs ever on any level at any point in history was about protecting you from anything. It was about money. Every time.
Right.
You can bury your fucking head in the sand.
It's always about
and
money.
Think that the government had your best interests at heart because they told you they did. But if you dig down, which I've talked about on this podcast, I like to do my research down to a nub. I got to know where it started. What is the origin point of this subject? The origin point of that subject is this motherfucker just wanted to make some money. That's all it amounts to. Don't mess with my business. He wasn't concerned about protecting anybody from anything.
That's insane.
Because Chris will tell you, I'll tell you, anybody that's ever smoked a joint will tell you, if you thought that there was any danger in you doing that, once you do it, you're going to start laughing. And one of the reasons you're laughing is because it makes you laugh. And the other reason you're laughing is because that's all there is. It makes you feel like you drank a beer or two, That's it.
Yeah.
Most podcasts, I'm talking to you and I came home from work and I had some fun. So we'll leave it at that, I'm entitled to do whatever I want because it's legal now, and that's one of the joys of being able to talk about it.
Right. There's not...
Because it was never dangerous.
What's interesting is the X-Files, Mulder and Scully come through your... Right. Mulder and Scully are in your background, dude. Mulder and Scully are coming to get you. I see them. Look behind you. There's Scully, dude. She's going to get you. See her? Seer.
I want to believe. I want to believe.
I want to believe. I
watch the X-Files too, buddy. I love that show.
Yeah, X-Files is a great show, man. It's a great show.
I actually just went back and watched all those probably, I don't know,
I'm gonna
10 years ago.
I couldn't get into it to that extent of watching it on like a watch again type thing. That's not a watch again type thing for me. But that's just me. I'm gonna Google because I'm running out of time. So I'm gonna Google. We both agree that Ozzy Osbourne is one of our favorite artists, correct?
We would not have
and
music
and
as
he's going
we
in the
know
Rock
it today
and
without
Roll
Ozzy.
Hall of Fame. Right. And Ozzy's going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as an individual artist, which was
long
I'm glad
overdue.
he's doing it because I don't have you seen Ozzy lately? I don't know how much longer Ozzy's going to be around. But he's probably going to end up being that guy that's around till he's like 103 because he did nothing but destroy his mind and body with everything he did, and because of that, he's like Keith Richards.
I hope so.
They're in the same lineage. Keith Richards and Ozzy Osbourne. Okay, so let's see what the Google machine says for the. I said top 11, but it was reverting to top 10. So we're going to do the top 10 Ozzy Osbourne songs. I don't want videos. I didn't say videos, you stupid thing. Stop that. I said songs. Top 10 best of, well, they said this one they have top 10 best songs of Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. I don't want to do that because those are two different things.
You just want him as a solo artist?
Yeah, I want solo.
Type in top 10 Ozzy solo songs.
Solo. There you go.
I'm advanced Google machine guy. It's all keywords,
you are advanced
man.
Google machine guy.
All keywords.
Top 10 solo Ozzy Osbourne songs. See how they're going to do this. Okay, so
there you go.
Mike Michaels. Dude, this is the Mike Michaels education hour today, boys and girls.
That's why you keep me around.
That's why you keep me around. Oh, I like some of these for sure. I like them. I don't like all of them, but so there's
I'll be the judge.
There's more than 10, and I don't know what I don't. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, top 20. So he gave me the top 20. So number 20, See You on the Other Side. Love that song.
Great song.
Absolutely love that song.
Agreed.
Yeah.
We can move on.
Yeah. Agreed. I don't know if it should be top 20 on the bottom. Next one is No Rest for the Wicked.
I love that whole album, so sure. There's not a bad song on that album.
Okay.
That was
number
Zakk
18
Wylde at his peak.
Yeah. No. Oh.
Not
Zakk Wylde's
peak. That was
right
Zakk
on.
Wylde in the beginning. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Hungry.
Okay. Number 18 is Miracle Man.
I have that way higher.
I love the lyrics of Miracle Man. If you've never listened to Miracle Man, listeners, if you've never listened to Ozzy's Miracle Man, Google that shit. And then you'll get an understanding of it's a great song. And then 17 is Mr. Tinker Train.
I love that song. Too. That's a great riff.
Goodbye to Romance is number. Yeah. Tinker Train. Yeah. 16 is Goodbye to Romance. I don't like. That's one of his slow ones I don't like. I would switch that with See You on the Other Side. I would make that the 20th.
The only reason it's not is because 20th. It's Randy Rhoads playing. Gotta be careful with Randy.
That makes sense then.
Yeah.
Next one is Gets Me Through.
Oh, that's a great song too. I don't know who the guitar player is on that one, but I like that riff too. That might be Gus G. Dreamer's good.
It's from the 2001 album Down to Earth.
Okay.
These aren't telling me who the album artists are, who the musicians are. Dreamer's next. I like that one. That's a good one.
Agreed.
Bloodbath in Paradise.
Great song.
Right. Believer. 19. 20. 21. 22. 23. 24. 25. 26. 27. 28. 29. 30. 31. 32. 33. 34. 35. 36. 37. 38. 39. 40. 41. 42. 43. 44. 45. 46. 47. 48. 49. 50. 51. 52. 53. 54. 55. 56. 57. 58. 59. 60. 61. 62. 63. 64. 65. 66. 67. 68. 69. 70. 71. 72. 73. 74. 75. 76. 77. 78. 79. 80. 81. 82. 83. 84. 85. 86. 87. 88. 89. 90. 91. 92. 93. 94. 95. 96. 97. 98. 99. 100. 101. 102. 103. 104. 105. 106. 107. 108. 109. 110. 111. 112. 113. 114. 115. 116. 117. 118. 119. 120. 121. 122. 123. 124. 125. 126. 127. 128. 129. 130. 131. That's
Love
a good. I like that. That's I'm a believer. I ain't no deceiver.
Great
Sato, S-A-T-O, Sato.
Love that one. Jake Ely,
right?
Good riff.
See, these are all fucking.
I love Ozzy, man.
Yeah,
love Ozzy.
Well, this kind of. Oh, I do. No, I do too. But there was that gap in his career where he wasn't relevant. Then he got super relevant again. Road to Nowhere, by far one of my top 3. I'd put that in my top 3 for him. Just from a lyrical standpoint, and just how, and that resonated with everyone.
You know, I think that's
one of his songs that just broke.
Don't quote me on this. You can Google this real quick. I think Lemmy wrote that song. He wrote Mama, I'm Coming Home, but I also think he wrote Road to Nowhere.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah. Him and Lemmy wrote a lot together, more than people think. Yeah.
Yeah, Lemmy's a man.
I didn't show in there, but Lemmy and Ozzy did so much together.
Lemmy has the best quote about racism ever, real quick. I never understood racism.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you not, with your own brain, decide who's an asshole and who is not? And of quote.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, next.
Okay, so I'm asking who wrote Road to Nowhere. What? That's a different Road to Nowhere. It's got to be, because this was written by David Byrne and released as a single in 1985, reached number 25 on the Billboard. It's got to be a different Road to Nowhere. Yeah, Talking Heads had a song called Road to Nowhere. Yeah, David Byrne. Hello, David Byrne. Who wrote Ozzy's? Oh, come on. Ozzy's Road to Nowhere.
He wrote
fuck
it.
off. I don't care about...
That wasn't one of them.
Okay,
he
started talking about... okay.
It was written by Ozzy Osbourne, Randy Castillo, Zakk Wylde, and Ozzy Osbourne.
Okay.
I said Ozzy Osbourne twice. Nice job, Mike.
Okay.
But that's what it said.
Randy Castillo, man. Randy Castillo was a great drummer. Randy Castillo was a great drummer. He died.
That's who was drumming when I saw him on
tour. We talked about that. Yeah, me too. Fucking phenomenal drummer, dude.
Brutal drummer.
And his documentary, dude. He was such a good human being, and it wasn't just one person saying that. It was everybody they talked to about Randy Castillo in that movie and the story about him.
I watched.
He was just a genuine human being who had an absolute love for what he did. Yeah,
they described him as a beautiful human being, like just sweet. I heard the word sweet a lot. He's just such a sweet guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he beat the shit out of those drums.
After Road to Nowhere. And he played so many different genres of music, and he gave himself to others, right? And he gave himself to others in learning and teaching, and just a superhuman.
Don't ever limit yourself to one genre of music, kids. Study it all.
Right. A prime example. My buddy Tommy Walker posted this thing about Brian Johnson, called "Singing in the Fraternity." Right, Brian Johnson, AC/DC.
Yep.
And so I told him, like, Tommy, he's singing on a Slash's new album. And I sent him the picture of it. And I was like, it's the same thing, dude. It's like legit. Like, you would never know that's Brian Johnson.
Not if you didn't tell someone.
I haven't seen what his comment was, but I'm sure he was floored. Right. So after Road to Nowhere is Blizzard of Oz.
Love it. Randy again.
Next is Hellraiser. Good fucking song.
Love it.
Next one is Suicide Solution.
Love it. His battle with alcoholism.
Next one is Perry Mason.
Love it.
Perry Mason.
Great riff.
This was actually this was the second song I ever heard from Ozzy, and the first one's right after it. So the second song I ever heard from him, actually the other two after this are so maybe it's the third song I ever heard from Ozzy. Diary of a Madman.
That's a great song.
Fucking had me hooked. Like, right? Flying High Again.
Yep.
and Over the Mountain and Over the Mountain. So that's the order I heard that I was introduced to Ozzy. Over the Mountain, Flying High Again, Diver Madman. As soon as I heard Diver Madman,
that's pretty close to mine too,
because
man.
back then it was cassette tapes. Rewind. Like I kept rewinding to hear Diver Madman again because it was that in the headphones.
Oh,
that thing was fucking fantastic, and it was like the first time I ever really heard a song that took you on that roller coaster we always talk about writing wise. The Diver Madman, dude, was just like, it was a story. It was captivating. It had a hook.
Yep.
It took you on a musical journey. It was fantastic.
Agreed.
Those
sucked you right in.
So now we're in the 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So Over the Mountain rounded out the top 5. So number 4, Shot in the Dark, which Ozzy hated that album. Like he hated Ultimate Sin. Like I saw him talk about that.
There's some good fucking songs on that album though.
I know there are, dude, so many good songs on the album. And he's like, I fucking hate that. That's the worst album I ever made. But it was the epitome of the 80s glam shit, because Ozzy's in that little sequence fucking robe on stage with the little sequence thing off his microphone, and just
as fucked up as he's ever been in his life.
Yeah. There was an interview I watched with him, something, and off. It was like before the interview, right? So they bring him in the room. He's all bloated and fat, and very unhealthy. And some chick from this background says, "Do you want something to drink?" And he's like, "That's all vodka, She's like, "Well, how about water?" He's like, "Water? What the fuck?"
I've seen that. I've seen that, man.
Right, okay. Yeah. Water. Like the look on his face is just
that?
Like, you fucking kidding me? Water? What am I supposed to do with water? It was just, sorry.
I remember that now.
That was great. That was great. Yeah. So top 3. This one makes sense because this kind of brought him back to relevance. No More Tears. Is that
agreed? That
came out before Road to Nowhere. And I'm surprised Mama I'm Coming Home is not on here. But that was, I think No More Tears was the first single released off that album.
It was.
And then I want to say Road to Nowhere, then Mama's I'm Coming Home, and then which Mama fucking took him to the stratosphere because he wasn't there yet, but that just
I take that. Isn't Perry Mason on that album?
Okay. Perry Mason's on it, yeah.
I think that was the first single, and then No More Tears came out.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I think Perry Mason
No More
was
Tears
the first.
album?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm pretty sure Perry Mason was the first single because it hooked me right in. I went right out and bought the CD.
Okay.
Not that No More Tears wouldn't have hooked me.
Ozzy said the song,
but Perry Mason hooked everybody. Just such a catchy song.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Oh yeah. Ozzy said the song No More Tears was about a serial killer.
Really?
Interesting.
I did not know that.
Did not know that till just now.
Now I'm going to have to go listen to it.
It says it right there in 2002. In the 2002 remaster booklet for the No More Tears album, Ozzy Osbourne stated that the song was about a serial killer.
That's awesome.
Number 2, Bark at the Moon. Yeah, Bark at the Moon.
The first hard song I ever learned on a guitar. That is not an easy song to play. And then this one,
the number 1. So Skylar sent me the screenshot the other day because Little Man Likes Rock, right? I got to find it. So where is it? There's a reason I'm doing this. It's funny. Oh, maybe she did in the family chat. And the reason I bring it up because this morning I was listening to, he was in the back of my truck when we were doing drop off, and I was listening to In This Moment, the band In This Moment. He's like, it was a slow one. He's like, I want rock pop up.
Right on.
His favorite rock song is BYOB from System of a Down.
Excellent choice.
And if that's not available, if that's not available, Afterlife is the second rock song. So what did I do? Not having either, I put on Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train. And I put it on, and I said, "This is rock, little man." And he kind of looked at me. He's like, "Yeah, that's not what Mom." I said, "No." He's like, "That's not what Mom sent you." I'm like, what the fuck, man? I don't like System of a Down. I can't stand them. It's just one of those bands,
No,
just one of those fucking bands.
Too over the top.
No, I just don't. I don't like them. I don't know what it is.
You're entitled to not like them.
Yeah, it does nothing for me.
I get it
because it's America, and you know it's in your So, all right. So with that, I got to bail.
All right, brother.
You know, this has been a Chris and Mike show. I'm Chris Dunham. He's Mike Michaels. Hey, you're not alone. We care about you. We love you. So be mindful of whatever you need, and talk to people if you're going through a bad spot in your life, because tomorrow's always a better day.
Amen.
And I'm gonna get a better microphone thing. Maybe I'll just get a hook and I'll hang it from the ceiling, so that I could just randomly talk like that.
Tony said to go get an SM-57 and all your problems will be solved. So I will go get an SM-57. He said then you can hold that thing all you want,
and I'm gonna have that, and I'm gonna rock and roll it, man. SM-57. I'm Googling.
He wants you to feel
There
comfortable.
it is. I see it. I like that Tony likes how we are, and he cares about me. He doesn't even know me. That's pretty legit, man. That shows the dude's got a good soul.
He does.
I'm excited to talk to him too. The more you keep talking about him, the more I want to and we're not going to be able to just do one show with that dude. So you got to prepare him for that, because it's not going to be just one thing. There's no way. He's
prepared. He's excited. We're going to make it happen.
Cool.
And all the people at home are going to love it.
Good to see you. Absolutely. It's good to see you, man.
You too,
like we haven't talked in a week,
I know sometimes it's a long week, and this was a long week.
Yeah. I had lots of different things going on in the real estate world, so I apologize for not being as available as usually am.
It's all good, man.
Tell the family I said hey, and all you listeners out there, thanks for listening to us. We appreciate it. And
absolutely.
We'll see you next week for episode 29.
Love you, brother.
Love you, brother. Have a
Peace.
great day. Peace.
I think it's episode